Today we're going to go over the brand new feature, the training guide for every single character, and find out just how screwed you'd be if you actually listen to it. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. And this is our very first video after having finally completed the collection. We now have every single character and we're going to put it to use today to go through the training guide. Now, I have already gone through it once because I made a video not understanding how something actually worked. It turns out that the artifact recommendations are recommended based on any artifact set available, but the weapons are only based on weapons that you yourself actually have. And I don't have every single 5-star weapon in the game, so my recommendations are skewed because, for example, I don't have Furina's weapon, so it's not showing up on her list of weapons. That being said, there's still a couple really problematic things, and we'll talk about it going over the characters one by one. But a lot of them we will skip over because they're mostly more or less correct. So, you know, Raiden, engulfing number 1, Homa number 2, catch number 3, mostly fine. I would have liked to see, because as you see in the artifacts, they also recommend Gilded Dreams. They ignore Flowers of Paradise Lost. I would have liked to see Dragon's Bane as one of these 3 weapons. I know it's usage rate, so people aren't using Dragon's Bane, but the weird thing is that they are using Gilded Dreams. So what is actually going on? This is one of the parts that's a problem. It doesn't give you the full context for artifact sets. For example, like when characters have completely different builds, such as Raiden or Toma, things like the Gilded Dreams are recommended, but they're not backed up by saying you need to use EM main stats. You need to use it with Dragon's Bane. It loses a lot of the nuance, and as such, if someone tried to, like, if they were looking, oh yeah, I'll just use Staff of Homa with my Gilded Dreams artifact set, and they just build whatever and they're wondering why their Raiden does no damage, so because they followed their recommendations. So yeah, the other thing is it's also not completely clear that the commonly used weapons are weapons that you own. Yes, you'd figure it out eventually, I guess, but on first glance, like, you don't know that for sure. And when we look at Furina's weapon, that's another big problem, is like, well, I don't own the pipe. Oh, let me quickly go fish for the pipe. Okay, I don't want it right now, but I still think this is the problem. Let's imagine that it does recommend the pipe over all 3 of these weapons. How am I to know that I should fish for the pipe if it's not recommended here? I'm actually a perfect use case for this because, as you know, say a new player, maybe I have some other weapons. If it doesn't recommend the pipe, how do I know that I need to fish for it? Would it also not recommend the catch for Raiden if I didn't already fish for it? So I still think that even if we give it the benefit of the doubt and we say that it did put the pipe, because the pipe is better than Haran and Mistsplitter for sure, because Furina does need ER. So I would argue that Fav is also better than these 2, but you know. So yeah, I think that's a problem. Artifact sets for Furina is fine. Yolan's actually one of the characters that's pretty good. It recommends the correct weapons and the correct artifact sets. Great. Shanyan, Skyward Atlas, Cashflow, Oathsworn. I would have liked to see Oathsworn on top. That's another thing about this, is it highly prioritizes 5-star weapons over 4 stars, even when it's not beneficial for the character. Like for Layla, it recommends Jade Cutter over Favonius or Dockhands, or Harbinger, right? Harbinger is one of her best weapons. It recommends Engulfing Lightning on Mika over Favonius when Favonius is just way better, right? At least it gets the artifact set right. You know, Yunjin engulfing or Favonius. It's pretty sad, and it definitely it ignores craftables if you haven't already crafted them. Baiju looking fine. Eula looks okay enough. It also ignores situational builds, of course, like Marishise Hunter Eula if you're using her with Furina. It's not going to take that into consideration. Zhongli completely doesn't have Fav. It just ignores, it. Fischl looks pretty good. Toma, it does recommend Kitane, but it drops the ball in the artifact set because it doesn't even have a mention of Gilded Dreams or Flowers, which is a shame. Bennett's actually one of the good ones. That's nice. It doesn't recommend Mistsplitter, even though I have it, and would be his best weapon here, but the recommendations are still good. I'm not as concerned with it getting the actual best recommendation because it's all very variable and there's teams, and as long as it's close. What I don't want to see is bad choices or bad choices above good choices. Like to see Jade Cutter above Iron Sting and this weapon is sad because someone's gonna think that they should be building, you know, Kuki off of crit because of this. That's unfortunate. Hu Tao is another problem one. Both Gilded Dreams and Shimenawa are better than Crimson Witch of Flames. I think Marishise is even better than Crimson Witch, although don't quote me on that outside of Furina teams. I think Crimson Witch is just very outdated now for Hu Tao, plus very inefficient. At least the weapon choices are good though. Yoimiya, you know, it's recommending for Aqua and First Great Magic above Rust, which is hilarious. First Great Magic above Rust. Again, ignoring Slingshot being also better than First Great Magic. Artifacts are okay though. Kokomi is looking fine. Alhaitham doesn't even give a free-to-play recommendation. I mean, to be fair, it's like all three of these are better than any free-to-play weapons I have, and I do have these three weapons, right? So it's not like Genshin. I've seen some people say, oh, it's telling you to go pull for 5-star weapons. The thing is, it only recommends weapons based on what you have, which is both good and bad, because it's good that it doesn't bait you into thinking you need 5-star weapons, but at the same time, it also doesn't recommend the good free-to-play weapons that are available in the game. Case in point, the Farina. Nahida, these are good choices. The artifacts are right too. I checked earlier. Nilu, recommending Jade over Iron or Dockhands. At least the artifacts are right though. Ayato is correct. Both artifacts and weapons. Yaimiko is alright. I'd like to see 2 pieces ahead, but it is what it is. Ayaka is correct, I believe, for the weapons. Yeah. Again, this is another case where if someone doesn't know that you should farm for the Fontaine Craftable, they won't realize, right? Shenhe, more or less correct. You know, I think Fav is probably better than Engulfing. Arguably just as good as Calamity Queller, so, but it is what it is. It's okay. Gaming, at least, is mostly correct. This is funny because it completely misses. It recommends Kagura's for Wanderer when his actual best in slot weapon is Cash Flow Supervision, and I have Cash Flow Supervision, but it's recommending Kagura's above Cash Flow and Tome above Cash Flow, which is just wild because, yeah, Cash Flow is his best weapon. Even arguably better than his signature. It's at least just as good, if not better than his signature. So that's really, really funny. Kazuha doesn't even recommend Fav. Very, very sad. Jade Cutter over Iron Sting and Fav. Amber doesn't really matter. Not gonna perform well for new players either way. Chevrolet's recommendations look good. Those are correct. Sara's are looking pretty good. Kurora's are fine. Like, you don't want Jade Cutter over those two usually. Again, pushing the 5-star narrative that 5 stars are just better when almost all teams, Sapwood or the Dockhands, are going to be better. And the trend pretty much continues. Like, you can kind of see where it's all going is that they're really pushing 5-star weapons and ignoring free-to-play options. And especially, I think the biggest problem is that it ignores weapons that the person could have but doesn't have. How does one know which weapons are worth crafting if you're not going to show them? I think one change that would instantly make this whole situation decent instead of bad, maybe it's not bad, is this, I'll think about it a little bit more for a second, but one situation that would instantly make this decent is if they just included craftable weapons, even if you didn't have them in their recommendations. That would instantly solve the biggest problem I see, and I would love them to actually include 3-star weapon options. Obviously, there's just the overall problem with usage rates not being a good way to judge, like, to give recommendations. But at least if they recommended, you know, if they gave me the recommendation to go fish for the pipe, you stupid idiot, then at least that would be helpful. But to just give me options out of what I have and not talking about that is not good. How screwed would a new player be if they just followed this guide and didn't, like, look up any guides on YouTube? I think they would probably, because it's this combined with the new fast equip artifact system. So they farm a bunch of artifacts, they level them up, they fast equip, also based on usage rate. I think outside of a couple niche cases, like Raiden's EM build being completely different than her damage build, could mess things up if they decide to farm Gilded, and then, you know, something like that. Outside of that, I think they'd be all right. I think that they probably wouldn't be able to 36-star without looking up real guides or really delving into things and learning beyond what it just tells them. But I think that they would be better off than without it. So overall, I think the feature is a W for new players because it decreases the artifact complexity. It decreases the weapon complexity. I just wish it included, maybe it would include 3-star weapons if you didn't have 4 and 5 stars. I bet it would. Yeah, it would. So this might be a really hot take, but despite all the problems, I think this is still a W W. The one thing that we need is report misinformation. So if the talents are wrong, like the Hu Tao talents, they're saying skill, then they're saying skill. Oh, my normal attack's already crowned. But anyways, they say that it's skill, then normal attack, then burst. There needs to be a report misinformation button. Same with artifacts. We need a report misinformation button and just input what the actual correct information is. And hopefully over time it could be corrected. And then Hoyoverse doesn't have to do anything. Like they don't seem to want to take their own accountability on telling you how to build your characters. So they're crowdsourcing. If you're going to crowdsource, at least let us correct the misinformation. But overall, I still think it's a W, despite people inevitably will play unoptimally because of this, but they will play better than they would have. So that's what I think. Let me know your thoughts. I think if I was to use their recommendations, that'd be kind of a fun challenge. Maybe for the new Abyss, I'll do a challenge where if they have a team recommender, that's what I would like to see, a team recommender. That's the next thing they should add. But maybe I'll challenge the Abyss bait with their recommendations, their worst recommendations. That might be kind of fun. I think they're too good though. I think they're too good to really be a proper challenge. So anyways, that's what I think. Take care. Bye for now.